She survived a shootout in the projects. But the person who killed her wasn't a gangster. It was the man writing her love letters every single day. Simonette Mess was the life of every room she entered. Born and raised on Staten Island, she was a devoted daughter, a beloved teacher, and a woman who brought joy to everyone around her. Her passion for Disney movies reflected her belief in fairy tales, and when she met Jonathan Crappie, she was convinced she had found her Prince Charming. Their wedding was a Cinderella dream, complete with a grand dress and a beautiful cake. Her parents, Teresa and John Mapes, watched their daughter marry the man she believed would complete her life. Jonathan wrote love letters every day, and Simonette saved every single one. They moved into a cozy condo, and Jonathan began studying for his master's degree. For all appearances, the couple was living happily ever after, but the fairy tale was built on a foundation of lies that would eventually destroy everything. Simonette worked as a teacher in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in New York City. She crossed the iconic Staten Island Bridge every day to reach the Cypress Hills projects, where she dedicated herself to helping children who needed her most. Her parents worried about her safety constantly, but Simonette never hesitated. She believed in her work and in the students she served. Just 1 week before her murder, she posted a chilling message on Facebook. She wrote about surviving a shootout in the projects, thanking God she was okay. She warned wannabe gangsters to appreciate what they had and stop pretending to live a lifestyle they would never understand. The post was a testament to her courage and her commitment to her community. Little did she know that the real danger was not in the streets she walked every day. It was waiting for her in the home where she slept each night. February 24th began like any ordinary day for Teresa Mapes. She usually called her daughter every morning at 7:30 to check in and say good morning. But that day, she wasn't feeling well. She decided to let Simonette sleep in. Around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Teresa noticed that Jonathan had called her cell phone. 5 minutes later, he called again. When she answered, the words she heard shattered her world forever. Jonathan told her Simonette was dead. He repeated it over and over, apologizing through the phone. Teresa asked him what he had done, and immediately hung up in shock. Jonathan called back and insisted she come to the condo. Teresa arrived to find police cars everywhere, yellow tape cordoning off the scene, and chaos surrounding the home where her daughter had lived. She collapsed when she learned what had happened. Her daughter was gone. When Teresa and John Mapes arrived at the crime scene, they were confronted with a nightmare. Their daughter had been thrown down the stairs and stabbed 15 times in the back and neck. The brutality of the attack was overwhelming. The parents struggled to reconcile the image of their vibrant, loving daughter with the violence that had ended her life. Initially, the police suggested the murder was a home invasion gone wrong. The house was trashed, and it appeared that someone had broken in. Teresa and John clung to that explanation in the first few hours because the alternative was unthinkable. But as they processed the scene and spoke with investigators, doubts began to creep in. A home invasion did not explain the passion behind the attack. Someone had taken the time to throw Simonette down the stairs and stab her repeatedly. This was not random. This was personal. Jonathan Crappie portrayed himself as the devastated widower. At Simonette's funeral, he wept openly and placed 2 roses on her casket. He played the role of the grieving husband perfectly for the public. But Teresa and John noticed something that disturbed them deeply. In the immediate aftermath of the murder, Jonathan showed no genuine emotion. He didn't cry when they pressed him for answers. He showed no grief, no shock, no anger at the person who had killed his wife. Instead, he seemed annoyed that the police were bothering him. He told the parents they needed to move on from the tragedy. That very night, he slept on their couch and asked to share pizza with them. He acted as if nothing had happened. Teresa and John looked at each other and realized something was very wrong. The grieving husband was not grieving at all. Detectives investigating Simonette's murder discovered a digital trail that painted a disturbing picture. Jonathan Croppi had been searching the internet in the weeks leading up to the killing. He looked up how to slash someone's throat. He researched what destroys DNA evidence. He searched for methods to clean up a crime scene and how to use bleach to remove forensic traces. These searches were damning, but they were not the only evidence. Jonathan had also been living a secret double life. He was using the money intended for his master's degree to pay for prostitutes. He had been seeing a specific escort named Miss Pumpkin for years. Simonette had discovered the truth. She had found a phone number that led back to the escort. She confronted him about his infidelity and about the lies he had been telling about his education. He was about to be exposed. Prosecutors built a case that revealed Jonathan Croppi's motive for killing his wife. Simonette had confronted him about his serial infidelity with prostitutes. She had also discovered that he was lying about completing his master's degree. The money he claimed was for his education had been spent on escort services. Simonette was smart and observant. She had done her own research and found the phone number that led to Miss Pumpkin. She was preparing to expose the truth about her husband. Jonathan could not allow that to happen. His carefully constructed double life was about to unravel. Rather than face the embarrassment and the destruction of his reputation, he chose to silence his wife forever. He killed her in a frenzied rage to protect the image he had created. He chose murder over the indignity of being exposed for who he really was. The trial of Jonathan Croppi featured testimony that shocked everyone in the courtroom. Miss Pumpkin, the escort Jonathan had been seeing for years, took the stand. She told the jury that Jonathan had called her just hours after murdering his wife. He asked for a quick meeting at a motel. She thought it was unusual because he always booked in advance. When he arrived, she asked him about the news reports of a teacher being murdered. He admitted it was his wife. He told her someone had murdered his wife, speaking the words as casually as if he were discussing the weather. Miss Pumpkin testified that she noticed something missing in his demeanor. There was no grief, no shock, no remorse. He simply moved on with his day, as if nothing had happened. The testimony painted a picture of a man devoid of any human emotion. The trial lasted 5 weeks, but the jury's deliberations were remarkably short. They took only 2 hours to reach a verdict. Jonathan Croppi was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 25 years to life in prison. At his sentencing, Jonathan addressed Simonette's family. He apologized for his lies and his infidelity. He acknowledged that his actions should never have played out in such a public forum. But then he said something that confirmed his complete lack of remorse. He told the family he could not apologize for something he did not do. He claimed he was innocent. Even after all the evidence, even after the conviction, even after the testimony of Miss Pumpkin, he refused to accept responsibility. Teresa and John watched in disbelief as the man who had killed their daughter continued to maintain his innocence. Teresa and John Mapes were left to pick up the pieces of their shattered lives. They lost their best friend. They lost their future. They lost the daughter who had brought joy to everyone she met. They described their suffering as a life sentence, far worse than the one Jonathan received. They returned to the condo where their daughter was murdered and found a shrine left by the new tenants. Teddy bears, a mass card, and a photograph of Simonette remained as a tribute to her memory. Teresa broke down at the sight of it. She whispered apologies to her baby girl. The yearbook dedicated to Simonette showed her smiling in almost every photograph. That was how everyone remembered her. Always smiling, always giving, always the life of the party, and she was taken by the one person she trusted most.